And we'll just give it another minute before we start.
But we don't see their names, we just see the number, right?
Yeah.
Correct. And they can see and hear you now too, just to let you all know. You're on screen.
We have no secrets.
Well, maybe you.
For yourself, laddie.
Well, it is 6:30, so we will go ahead and start. Welcome to our Dark Skies Chat, a discussion on responsible lighting in Santa Fe, hosted by the Santa Fe Conservation Trust. I'm Joanne Smoger, and before I introduce these folks, which it will be a pleasure to do, for those that may not know much about the Santa Fe Conservation Trust, we've been around for 27 years, protecting local land, trails, and dark skies. We also provide some programs for the community with a focus on outdoor equity and inclusion. We bring folks out onto the trail, folks of all ages who may not have a chance to get out otherwise on our trails. Tonight, we're going to talk about responsible lighting in Santa Fe and dark skies. Our dark skies program at the Trust includes requiring low impact lighting on all of our conservation easements, and that covers over 42,000 acres in northern New Mexico. We also host stargazing parties, and Peter, who I will introduce in a moment, is the one who leads those stargazing parties. They're educational, they're fun, we get out there, there's telescopes, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation. Before I introduce our speakers, I just want to alert you to the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and please go ahead and type in your questions throughout the presentation. I'm told that our panelists may answer some, throughout the presentation. If not, we're going to try and get to as many as possible at the end. So let me go ahead and begin our introductions. These are abbreviated introductions for everybody, and I apologize for that, but we want to get to the presentation as soon as possible. Let's start with Sam. Sam Finn is a retired astrophysicist. He taught at Cornell University and Northwestern University, and then at Penn State in the physics, astronomy, and astrophysics departments. In 2001, he was named the first director of the National Science Foundation Physics Frontier Center for Gravitational Physics. That's a mouthful. He was the founding chief editor of the peer-reviewed journal Frontiers in Astronomy and Space Sciences. Welcome, Sam. Peter Lipscomb. He began his education and advocacy for sensible lighting practices nearly 2 decades ago. During that time, he has backed legislative actions on the state level and supported outdoor lighting ordinance efforts in a number of New Mexico counties. He was former Night Sky Program Director for the New Mexico Heritage Preservation and was a 2016 honoree of the Santa Fe Conservation Trust's Stuart Udall Award. Today, he serves as Cerrillos Hills State Park Manager and conducts guided night sky tours for residents and visitors as owner of Astronomy Adventures. Welcome, Peter. Francois-Marie Patorny completed his postgraduate studies in France and earned his MBA from the Wharton School in Philadelphia. His career at the World Bank in Washington, D.C. took him to most parts of the world. He's the author of The French in New Mexico and remains active in local and international issues and with public policy reform. He's a member of several astronomy organizations, and he sees preserving the night skies as an integral part of environmental stewardship. Welcome, Francois-Marie. And our moderator tonight is Terry Smith. Terry's a longtime Santa Fe resident who served on the Santa Fe Conservation Trust's board for 5 years, and he was our chair for 3 years. He founded our Dark Skies program. Prior to moving to Santa Fe in 1996, Terry served as vice president for development at the National Geographic Society, and he also served as executive director of the Society's Education Foundation. Welcome. Welcome, Terry. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for offering us your time, your expertise, and to inform the community about responsible lighting, healthy skies, and what dark skies really mean. So at this point, Terry, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody who is participating. We're glad that you're here, and we hope it'll be a profitable and interesting conversation for you. Who are we, the four of us on the panel? We are four citizens who love our community and are concerned, having followed the discussions and the conversations that have been undertaken by the city, we are concerned with the direction that we believe the city is headed. We want to help our fellow citizens learn more about the issues involved in outdoor lighting so that you all can come to your own opinion about what you think about the process and communicate your opinion to your elected representatives. Any information that we share with you is to the best of our ability, scientifically accurate and true. And the other point I want to make is that we represent nobody but ourselves. We're not part of any particular organizational position. We are four people who have an opinion, and our opinions are ours and no one else's. So in summary, I really hope that we can be helpful to you in understanding this complicated issue. Finally, before we start the conversation, I'd like to thank Sarah Noss, the Executive Director of the Santa Fe Conservation Trust, and George Strickland, Board Chair, as well as all the members of the board who rightly saw this issue as within their domain as a primary local conservation organization. I'm proud to have been part of that organization, and I'm grateful to them for supporting this effort. So remember that at any time as we move through the conversations, you may use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen to write questions, which will appear to us, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can. There are, however, 108 of you out there now, so we may have more questions than we have time to answer. During the course, we will mention two websites, and I want to just share them with you because you can afterwards find a lot of information there. The first website is one that we built. Actually, Sam Finn built it in 3 days, by the way. Building a website in 3 days is no mean task. It is called Night Sky Santa Fe, all one word, nightskysantafe.org, O-R-G. That's our website with our material. The other website you may find useful is Santa Fe LED. Santa Fe LED is in light emitting diodes. That's the lighting we're going to move to. .com. Now, the last thing I want to say before we begin is that none of us is interested in kiboshing the project that the city has underway. We all support the conversion to LED lighting. We think it's important for lots of reasons. Mostly, it will save an enormous amount of energy. That will reduce Santa Fe's carbon footprint. It will provide more reliable lighting, less maintenance cost, fewer outages. In general, it will enable us to have good, responsible lighting. Depending on the choices we make, we can also have both safety and a gentle amber light such as characterizes our community, depending on the choices that the city council ultimately makes about what lighting they choose. So enough from me. I would say that at the end of the day, our presentation and the conversations with the city generally will deal with issues of lighting color and brightness. And so I don't know how, I may be slow, but it took me a week or so of really studying to get these concepts locked into my head so that I could understand the conversation. So I'm going to ask Sam Finn to give you all a brief tutorial on the language of the lighting issues that we're facing. And so Sam is more than qualified to do it. And I turn it over to you, Sam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Terry, and thank you to everybody who is joining us tonight. So let's unpack that question, Terry, because it involves maybe 3 or 4 different things, all related to each other, but still several different things. One, of course, is the terms that we use to describe brightness, the terms that we use to describe color, the color of light, and particularly so much of the conversation has revolved around color temperature, how it is that light can have, color can have a temperature to it. And then the question that brings it all together is kind of, what does all this have to do with safety? So kind of starting at the top, the first question is really kind of the easiest. We all know lamps give off light. And when we talk about how bright a lamp is, scientists and engineers talk about the lumens that are emitted. More lumens, brighter light. Now, if we talk about light on a road, well, the further apart your lampposts are, your light standards are, the brighter the light has to be to spread out over that distance. If they're more closely spaced together, they don't have to be as bright because every lamp isn't covering as much area. So that's kind of why we have different brightnesses for some of our lights. Now, the question of color of the light, and particularly when we talk about temperature and color and Kelvin and color, that could be a really long saga, but we're not gonna do that tonight. I'm gonna try to cut it short and keep it to just the key things that we need to know. But I'm gonna have to take a couple of steps to get there. And the first step is to just remind you about the rainbow. We've all seen a rainbow. Sunlight passes through when sunlight passes through a mist just right, you see that the light is kind of teased apart into the rainbow colors. You've got, your red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. I never knew of indigo until I studied rainbows. Now, all of those lights you can think of as kind of pure colors. Every other color that you see, every hue of red, or every shade or every tint of a color comes from a combination of those rainbow colors, just in different proportions. So brown, as an example, or pink. Pink doesn't appear anywhere in the rainbow. Gray is a color, and it comes from combining the rainbow colors. Now let's take a switch and ask about, well, what was the first artificial light? The first artificial light was fire. And that could be a campfire, it could be a candle, it could be a torch, a gas lamp. But it was light generated by heat. So it's actually not the fire that is doing it, it's the heat that is being generated that gives off the light. Now, we call this kind of light incandescent light, and it's the same thing that you had in your old style incandescent bulbs, where there was a filament that got heated by passing electricity through it. Again, it was the heat that generated the light. The color of light, yellow or amber or brilliant white or blue white, the color of the light that arises from heat alone is strictly determined by the temperature and nothing else. So we got in the habit of talking about the color of light, that might be a red or an amber or a yellowish white or a white or a blue white, by the temperature of the heat that generated the light. It turns out that we could have measured, we could characterize light color or the temperature degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius. For technical reasons, scientists and engineers like to use a different scale, and that's the Kelvin scale. But degrees Kelvin, degrees Fahrenheit, doesn't matter. The thing to keep in mind is that at lower temperatures, more light comes from the red, orange, yellow part of the rainbow than comes from the blue, indigo, violet part. And at higher temperatures, it switches. And more light comes from the blue, indigo, violet part of the spectrum than from the red, orange, yellow part of the spectrum. The key thing to keep in mind is that all the color temperature is telling you is the relative proportion of red, orange, yellow to blue, indigo, violet. Higher temperature, higher proportion of blue, indigo, violet to red, orange, yellow. That's the key. So now let's kind of try to bring these things all together in terms of safety. The principal purpose of street lighting is safety. If there wasn't a need for safety, then there wouldn't be a need for street lighting at all. Safety means, in this context, it means your ability to see and avoid hazards or dangers. And that applies whether you're a driver in a car or a bicyclist on the street, or you're just out for an evening stroll. You want to be able to see a hole in the sidewalk. You want to be able to see someone hiding in the shadows. You want to be able to see and avoid hazards. Now, there is an entire branch of engineering that is devoted to the study of lighting for the purpose of public safety. And that organization is called the Illuminating Engineering Society, or IES. They've been around for about 115 years at this point. Together with another organization you may have heard of, the American National Standards Institute, also known as ANSI, A-N-S-I, they periodically publish standards, which are the consensus evaluation of the experts informed by all of the scientifically validated data that exists at the time that they have issued these standards. The most recent standard was published in 2019, and it talked specifically about color temperature and concluded in their study that for the purposes of lighting safety, color temperature makes no difference at all. You can be just as safe under a candlelight color as under a brilliant blue-white color. The only thing that matters is that you get the illumination level right, the brightness on the road. You get that right and you're safe. And it doesn't matter, and what the brightness level is also doesn't depend on the color temperature. So color temperature is completely irrelevant to safety. This is what the experts say. They go on to say explicitly that you can choose, and lighting designers should choose the color temperature to enhance other things that you want to do with your city: ambiance, protection of the environment. This is all written into the standard document. And so, just to end on an opinion, since lighting experts say that we have that choice, and LED lighting allows us to take advantage of that choice, I think we should, to make our city even more beautiful and inviting. So that's kind of my answer to the question in the smallest nutshell I could make it, I'm sure that I didn't explain things particularly well in some areas, and I invite people to post questions, and I'll do my best to clarify. Thanks, Terry.
You're welcome, Pete. Sam, thank you. Are there questions? I'm looking at the Q&A. I see 4 questions. Let me bring them up. All right, let's see. Let me look at these while someone else is talking for a few minutes. Any of the other panelists like to chime in on Sam's explanation or add a dimension? Peter, you talk about this quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, and Sam. That was a great summary. Thank you very much for laying that out. And I think the one of the things that you brought up when we were having talks, off the session tonight, was the idea that things that are on the more blue or more white end. We've never seen anybody driving a car with fog lamps that are that color temperature. It's amber color. That will more readily be able to see through mist, fog, rain, whereas the blue light's just going to scatter right back at you. So that's just one little thing I just wanted to throw out there as an addition.
Okay, a couple of questions, one of which I will answer myself. It's from Nicholas Knorr, K-N-O-R-R. What needs to be done in addition to the street lighting, since much light pollution comes from private property? Update code and other regulations? What and how? Peter, that's for you.
Well, this is it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Nick, for your question. That's a great question. And I think one of the things that we can consider if this lighting project is done in a way that brings us the best benefits of available technology is that, yes, something that improves Santa Fe's lighting ordinance would be a good next step. But we're not going to get a lot of support from the community for a lighting ordinance if the roadway lighting that Santa Fe puts up is all glary and bright, and because everybody's just going to say, well, look at what the city did. So is the city going to set a good example? I think that a lighting ordinance and an update on the language in the lighting ordinances for Santa Fe would be the next best step after we complete this retrofit project.
Great. And while we have you, Peter, the decisions that the governing board will make about the lighting plan, ultimately, which I think, if anybody can correct me, I think they're planning on making that decision somewhere at the end of May, will have an impact on human health and on the health of critters. As an interesting fact that certain of the lighting spectrum that Sam talked about, particularly blue-white light that we see as white light, like a searchlight, has a potential damaging effect on human health in a number of ways, and on lots and lots of the critters who share this community with us. Peter?
Well, thank you, Terry. Yeah, so there's no one magic bullet spectrum that's going to work for all wildlife and all animals, but it is true that the blue or whiter is disruptive to mating, feeding, and reproductive behaviors for animals. So getting closer to that warmer color is going to be something that shows a sensitivity to the environment. And just for us as humans, I mean, it's important to just go back, for the early days of our evolution and our human ancestors and all the rest of the creatures on this planet. We have all evolved with the diurnal cycle of day and night. And because of that, of course, we are more wakeful and alert during the daytime. And at night, that's our time for rest, restoration, cellular repair. And many animals have these resting cycles tied to the day and night. So that's what people describe as the circadian rhythm. Now, when we think about the anatomy of the human eye, a lot of people are familiar with the rod cells and the cone cells. Now, the cone cells would be the ones that allow us to perceive those shades of color, the combinations of colors that Sam was referring to. And the rod cells are what give us the ability to see in lower light conditions, the monochromatic, the shades of gray. But there's a third kind, which are called the retinal ganglion cells. And these are photoreceptors that are sensitive to differences in brightness. And we're not really even conscious of that being part of our visual system, but they are something that is developed within the human eye. And lack of proper darkness at night is hazardous to our health. Not having the opportunity for our body to fully reach the level of rest, restoration, and repair on the cellular level creates a lot of problems for us as a health problem, or as a, hazards for our health. So if we think about the kind of lighting and the color temperatures that we want to have, we would be better off getting closer to the amber, the more reddish colors, those lower color temperatures. Because, when we're alert and then we're out in the daytime, all you have to do is look up at the sky and see what color it is. It's blue. So why is it blue? The blue light scatters, of course. That's when we're more alert. And that's one of the things that I feel is primary to some of the concerns that have been coming up as we've been learning more about the project, and need to share with all the members of the community and people in the city about why we feel this is an important thing to support our health, so that the city can also be a good neighbor, and we can move into what is the next thing we want to do to preserve the charm and character of the town that we live in. Last thing I just want to throw out is that this month, 22 years ago, Governor Johnson signed into law the New Mexico Night Sky Protection Act, which was a forward-looking effort to identify what had been highlighted as an endangered natural and cultural resource in the New Mexico night sky. So, we've got the lighting project, and then there's the overall broader picture of it, the sky of our ancestors, that shared cultural heritage that we can celebrate and have access to still here in New Mexico. And I hope that stays the same for a long time to come.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. A question from an anonymous attendee, which is quite straightforward. What is the city proposing? Who would like to have a shot at that? Sam?
Well, I think right now the city is proposing lighting at 3,000 degrees Kelvin, which is in the white to blue-white range, to 4,000 degrees Kelvin, which is in the blue-white range, definitely. And there is some discussion of lighting at 2,700 degrees Kelvin, which is kind of like interior home color lighting with the old style incandescent bulbs. But there is a lot of flux right now in what is being proposed. And really it can vary a bit by who you ask in the city. And so beyond that range, I think the thing you really need to do is to ask your councilors, ask the mayor, what is the proposal at this point in time?
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
I'd like to just throw something else out if I could, Terry.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to just also point out, anybody who drives up Agua Fria from Siler Road will get a good illustration of a range of color temperatures and how those lights look from Siler Road up Agua Fria past Frenchie's Field and towards Hickok Street. You will see 5,000 Kelvin, the white lights. You will see the demonstration lights at Frenchie's Field, the company that the city is contracted to do the lighting install. And then beyond that, you will see those candlelight, low pressure sodium. So you can get a good range of color temperatures, just so you can get out there and see these things. It's really important. We want to encourage everybody to get out and look at that.
Yeah, we, as Sam said, and as Peter said, we believe that the city has been, the original plan of the city was 3,000 to 4,500, I think, Sam, yeah, at the very beginning, Kelvins. It may be changing as a result of the demo project, we certainly hope. But the important thing is that it is still unclear, and you all still have an opportunity to affect what decisions are made by doing some studying and looking at the websites that we've given you and other sources, and coming to your own conclusion about how you want your community to feel. And I think Francois Marie is going to talk a bit about ambiance, but think of how important it is to the city we live in that we have this capability of having a gentle amber light, which will create a soft and gentle ambiance and also have full bore safety. I think that's a really important factor. So we're talking about now a continuum of light from, I don't know, what, 1,000 kelvins.
2,000. Call 2,000.
2,000. Now, interestingly, and this relates to another question I received, the actual demonstration lights have only been 2,700 and 3,000. So if you go on the city and the company's website, you will see the location of the demonstration lights. They have been only at 2,700 and 3,000. So it's really hard. Some people have been able to see a distinct difference. Some people have not, myself among them. However, you can see 2,000 Kelvin lights because the owner, Robin Martin of the New Mexican, has at her own initiative installed 2,000 Kelvin lighting in the parking lot at the New Mexican's printing facility out at the end of Cerrillos Road. Each of you may want to zoom by there in the evening. They're on tonight, and they will be on in the future because that's the lighting she has chosen for that parking lot. So you would be able to get a real contrast if you are willing to go out and have a look at those 2,000 Kelvin lights. Francois Marie, you've been an advocate for the whole notion of the ambience of our community for years, including water issues, forest issues, and so on. I think the audience would appreciate hearing your take on what your experience has been and how you feel about these things.
Yes, Terry. I would like to start with a personal story to tell you why I'm here in this Zoom meeting. And it's a story about how to feel good. Before coming to Santa Fe, I was living in Washington, D.C. And I came to Santa Fe in 2004. But before coming, while I was working in Washington, a few times I came to New Mexico. And I did not come to Santa Fe, I came to Sapello, which is a little place near Las Vegas, New Mexico, where there was an inn, especially for astronomers. It was a dark place, and we could only have red flashlights, and there you could see the Milky Way and all the stars one could ever see with naked eye. It was an amazing sight, and it's a place where astronomers have actually produced star atlases from photographs they took from there. So I came a few times. That was a great experience. And I retired to Santa Fe in 2004. But that was not only because of the dark skies. It was because of what you call the ambiance of Santa Fe. It was because of Santa Fe's way of life, way of being. It was a quiet place. It was a place respectful of traditional values. It was a place for birds and bees. It was just a place where one feels good. So I moved here. But as time passed, more lights appeared. They were lights from developments, from parking lots, from highways, from gas stations, you name it. And slowly, and it's not that long ago, but still slowly, I could see Santa Fe become like pieces of cheese under a glass dome. You know, when you want to protect the cheese from the flies, you have a glass dome about them. It was a dome of glow higher than the mountains around. And it was filled with scattered light on dust and smoke. And that dome is visible from tens of miles around Santa Fe. So I was pretty disturbed about that because it came on quite quickly. So I joined citizen groups. We've met there. I was president of the Santa Fe Watershed Association. I was part of the Santa Fe Vision Plan, of a land development plan, and so on. But I want to talk about the vision plan. That was an initiative of the city in 2007. And the main goals of the vision plan was simply to have people feel good in Santa Fe. Pretty easy. So the goals were to preserve the character of Santa Fe. It was to create a feeling in neighborhoods and a sense of safety. And it was also to do all that. It's written in the conclusions of the vision plan. It was to be done with the input of Santa Fe citizens from all walks of life, not just the people who live on the Plaza or Canyon Road. So I think, well, the plan has been kind of shelved, and I think this goal is worth reviving because we call Santa Fe the city different, but I don't think it should be different because it shines brighter than other many cities in the US who are kind of friendly lighting standards. It should not shine brighter in the sky, it should not shine brighter on the highway or just in your window. It's important to understand, I think, that this color of lights and the intensity of lights does not matter only just in front of your house or in the street where you are driving. It matters to the whole Santa Fe community and to Santa Fe County. From my house in Santa Fe, I can see the light dome of Albuquerque 40 miles away. So to make it short, I think that the city plan to change the lighting is a good one if it is implemented adequately, properly. So all the decisions basically will be a consequence of the vision of what is our vision, the public's vision of what will Santa Fe look like 5 years, 10 years from now? Do you want a city full of blue lights with highways and overpasses and underpasses, or do you want a city where it feels good to be? So to learn that, as you said, I think go to the night sky, santafe.org, but also you can just Google light pollution. Just do that because you will be overwhelmed by the number of hits you have on light pollution and see what the problem is at all levels. So again, I support the city project, but I support a good implementation and lower color temperature possible. So just get in touch with the city council, the mayor, and just let them know how you feel. Thank you.
Thank you, FM. Appreciate it. I have had several questions asking to restate the website, so let me do that. The website that we created, nightskysantafe.org, and the website that the city and the contractor, Dalkia, has created is, excuse me, get it. Why do I have it? Why don't I have this in front of me? Sam, it's
SantaFeLED.com.
That's it, SantaFeLED.com. So just two. But as FM has said, there's plenty of sites that deal with this general proposition. Now we've got about a gazillion, we've got 41 questions here. And so I'm going to try to respond to some of them, have us respond to some of them. I love this. Someone has said, ambiance. Isn't that a French origin word, François-Marie?
Yeah, it's French origin, like the frontier, and we are on the frontier as well.
I love that. So let me just get rid of that question. Thank you. Kind of fun. Here's a good question. Why do you think the city plan leans toward using blue-white light? Would anybody venture a guess, or shall we just suggest that folks ask the city?
I think folks need to ask the city.
I agree. I mean, we could only speculate. We've been scratching our heads ourselves. So I think it's very appropriate for someone who's asking that question to ask your city councilors. You can find easily from our website what district you're in if you're not sure, and who your councilors are. And there is a page there's a link in our website under the Take Action page that will lead you to a page in the city's website that has all their contact information. We think it's a great idea for people to say just exactly what is the rationale for moving towards the bluer end of the spectrum. Sam, do you have?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing, because it's a very important question, because all lighting should have a purpose. And it's understanding the purpose tells you what color light you need. It tells you how bright it should be. It tells you where the light should be, what should be illuminated. It tells you when the thing should be illuminated. And so understanding the reason, exactly as you asked that question, you're recommending this color temperature, tell me why. It's not a challenging question. It's a really important question, because if you don't understand purpose, then nothing else makes sense.
Thanks, Sam. I've got an interesting question here that I personally have never thought about. One of our audience says, does color blindness factor in on safety?
Or unless Peter wants to take that one.
I don't know the answer to that question. I know that one member of our working group does have red-green color blindness, and he doesn't see the color temperatures quite the same way we do, but I expect the brightness would be something he could totally tell the difference about. And while we're on this idea of blindness and not being able to see well with bad lighting, older people and people who've recovered from cataract surgery sometimes have problems with lights that are more in the blue end. It just isn't possible for them to see. So they have a night blindness as a result. So another reason for, carefully considering and making the appropriate and proper choice.
Just to add to what Peter was saying, which might make the whole thing obvious, people buy these yellow glasses to drive because of the glare. They have these white lights and they buy these yellow glasses that they put on top of their driving glasses or on their eyes. So it just illustrates the fact that white glare is not so good.
Yeah, the color blindness affects your ability to, for example, distinguish red and blue. And in a lot of ways, that's why, while we have, red stop signs and red stoplights, we don't also then have blue as a signaling color on stoplights or stop signs and the like. And it's to avoid any confusion related to that. But what the color blindness does is it makes it hard for you to tell the difference, or impossible for you to tell the difference between the colors. It doesn't mean that you don't see the light. You just can't distinguish the colors.
I hope that answers the question. someone is having trouble finding the test sites. If you go to SantaFeLED.com, that is a special website created by the city and the contractor for this project. Go there and scroll down close to the bottom. You will come across the directions to maps, 4 maps. The maps are not particularly accurate, but there's a description of where the lights are. And if you're looking at the lights and you're having trouble finding them, when you look up, the LED lights have a flat underneath where the bulb would be in an old light. There is a flat piece, and there are 3 round circles in each one. That's the LED lighting unit. So, and the signs, I know out at the one on Jaguar Road and at Frenchie's Field, there are actually signs taped to the lighting poles.
They've been taken down.
Well, I saw them yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about the other locations, but they were there yesterday. So go on, not on the City of Santa Fe general website, but SantaFeLED.com, and scroll down. You will see the 4 maps. And we encourage everyone to do that. It's very important to try to distinguish the different colors. But again, they're only 2,700 Kelvin and 3,000 Kelvin to be seen. Now, there are other lights at 4,000 and 5,000 Kelvin around the city. Someone was just saying that I'll try and find it. This is a statement, but it's an interesting one in terms of some of the other questions we're getting. The other night, I went out and made images of the 4 sites after resetting my camera light sensitivity to 3,000 Kelvin. And when I imaged St. Michael's Drive, it came out very blue, but the whole area was filled with feral lighting in massive amounts. The other sites all came out about right, or just a little bright white. I thought I had sent each one to Sam, but I guess Yahoo blew the send again. At least I'm blaming them. So thank you for that. Another question, I would like to hear more about scatter of light, what I would view as glariness. Scatter of light due to temperature, please. Go ahead, Sam.
So one of the things about going back to the rainbow is that there's, and Peter indicated this when he talked about fog lights. Light from the red, orange, yellow part of the spectrum is much more penetrating through dust and just through the atmosphere, through water vapor, fog, and so on, than is light from the blue end of the spectrum, blue, indigo, violet. And in fact, it's a really significant difference. If you compare reddish or amber light to bluish light, the blue will scatter about 16 times as much as the red. This is why, and again, as Peter pointed out, the sky away from the sun is blue. That blue is light that came to the earth from the sun, hit the atmosphere. The red and the orange and the yellow and the green parts of the light pretty much come through undisturbed. But all the blue that came from the sun, it bounced off, just took odd ricochets off of the molecules in the atmosphere and illuminates the rest of the sky with that blue light. And that's the scatter problem. It happens in your eye also, and it's one of the things that's responsible for glare. When you've had cataract surgery, you have little scars in your eye from that surgery, and the light scatters off of those scars and leads to glare. And it's the blue light that does that close, well, 16 roughly times as much as red, orange, yellow, or the kind of golden amber that we talk about with candlelight.
Thank you, Sam.
Can I
So
add
many
something on
good
that,
questions.
Terry?
Go ahead, Peter, please.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, the lighting that's being proposed, the LED technology, more energy efficient, and full cutoff shields. If it's more toward the blue, yeah, full cutoff and directed downward is going to direct the light to the road surface. But the bluer it is, shiny vehicles, wet roadways, nearby structures, the more scatter it's going to have. And that's going to create a greater overall sky glow for Santa Fe. We don't want to see that. We can get plenty of that from Albuquerque.
Yes, an interesting point that Peter and I both, and I guess FM as well, we have from Santa Fe, we have learned that you can see the light glow from Albuquerque at Chaco Canyon. Now, that has nothing to do with streetlights in Santa Fe, but it has something to do with our cavalier attitude about the dark skies at night. Here's a question. When we write to our representatives, what is the lowest kelvins you recommend that the city should implement throughout to minimize light pollution? Anybody want to have a stab at that? I know we all have individual opinions. I'm not sure we have a consensus, but let's try.
Well, one of the things I would just offer, Terry, is we are looking at lighting right now with low pressure and high pressure sodium lights for the most part throughout Santa Fe that are in the 2200 range. And if we put out lights that are higher temperature colors or higher color temperatures than that, we're going to see a big shift in the character of this town. So
let me
Yeah.
interrupt for a second, Peter.
Sure.
The high pressure sodium lights, those for the audience are the traditional bulb lights that are on so many of our light poles.
Well, they're the sag lens Cobra headlamps, the ones that are really more orange. Those are low pressure sodium. The ones that you see that are full cutoff, that are way up high near down near the Super Walmart and the that end of town, those are the high pressure sodium lights. They're a more golden color than amber.
Point is that they are generally operating at around 2200 Kelvin. And the city can choose to purchase 2200 Kelvin fixtures for those streets and neighborhoods where it's appropriate. And if there are special locations that require more because of some unique need, they can up the temperature. The point is that LED gives the opportunity to have safety and the color of the general light, the ambiance that you want in the community, that we would like in the community. So let's just say, unless somebody in the group disagrees, that Peter is locking on to 2200 is a good number. And you can see 2000 out at the printing plant, New Mexican printing plant, thanks to Robin Martin. Sam, you had your hand up here for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna add that one of the things that sometimes that some people find, some people don't like the quality, if you will, of the kind of amber that you get from the low pressure sodium or even from the high pressure sodium. And it's what you can get from LED lighting at the same color temperature is a much richer experience from the color. And so it will look amber or yellow depending upon the temperature, but it's going to be a richer and a fuller amber or yellow with the LED lighting. And that's one of the advantages of the LED lighting, is in some sense the quality of the color is much better.
Okay, thank you. This is a question that I'm not sure we can answer, but let's try. Will this plan affect just the city street light, or will it include recreation parks with night lighting? Yes, same.
The current plan focuses only on the replacement of the streetlights. So it doesn't address recreational facilities, and it doesn't address lights that are in, for example, parking lots, city parking lots or the like. And it definitely does not address any businesses or homes. It's a streetlight replacement only.
Yes, other lighting issues throughout the city, I think we would agree, wait in line to be addressed once we have made good choices about the street lighting. I think the mayor has even talked about trying to achieve the International Dark Sky Association's recognition as a dark sky city, which would require us to go well beyond the street lights in order to get that certification. But that's in line behind the issue that's in front of us right now. I have another question. 3,000, this is from I think these two questions are from the same person. 3,000K and 4,000K lights have longer warranties too, and they need them for those reasons. This is based on discussions with Dalkia representative. Anybody? Sam, I know how you feel about that. Why don't you take a stab at that?
Oh, that's, of course, I wasn't there to hear the conversation, and so I'll just say that perhaps they misheard the question and didn't quite answer properly. But 2200K lighting is installed in a number of cities across the country. Flagstaff is an example, and it has high efficiency, the same efficiency as 3000 and 4000K lighting. It has the same reliability as that lighting. It carries the same warranties as that lighting. Commercial lighting at 2200, even 2000 Kelvin, and actually even below that, is available from different vendors. For the purposes of city lighting, you probably don't want to go much below 2000K, because then it starts to get maybe a little too red to be comfortable. And you want lighting that brings you out and says, you know, I want to go out for a stroll in the evening. If you lived really close to an astronomical observatory and that was important to your community, then these lower temperatures would be something that you would choose. As with
Tucson and Flagstaff.
That's right. And there are areas of Flagstaff that I understand are under 2000 Kelvin for their lighing.
Because of the observatories. Yeah,
special purpose lighting. Again, it comes back to purpose. But the, you know, you want the lighting to have a purpose. And as long as you can be safe, then there is no reason to choose lighting that is, that does not make you feel comfortable and invited to go out and take a stroll at night or sit on your porch.
Listen, we have only about 3 minutes left, and there are so many great questions here. If we have on our website, that is on nightskysantafe.org, we have a way to reach us. It is contact@nightskysantafe.org. And if you want to try again to get your question answered, we will do our best. Now, there's only 4 of us, and there have been right now there are well, there are just 114 questions. So we may not get to you right away, but if you send us the information we need to respond to your question, we will do our best to do it. The directions on how to do it are on our website. The main thing we want to leave you with is this. Please, you've already shown your interest. You've become involved. This is an opportunity for us to craft a city that we want by reaching out to and respectfully dealing with the city elected officials. I think they will be pleased to hear from this audience. And all I can say is we're very, very pleased to have been able to share this time with you. We hope it has been helpful in your thinking about this issue. Just remember this, whatever decisions the city makes will be with us for at least a generation, probably more. Think of how long the lights we have now have been with us. So it is a decision with long-lasting impact on our community. With that, my timing shows us out of time. So I need to turn it back to Joanne from the Santa Fe Conservation Trust. Thank you again, everybody. We will do our best. If you resend your questions, we don't have any, we have your names, but we don't have email addresses for you. We won't be sharing those with anyone, believe me. Strictly personal between us. Okay? Thank you so much. Joanne, take it away.
Thanks, Terry. On behalf of the Santa Fe Conservation Trust, thanks so much to our panelists. It's been, as I said, enlightening on our social media posts.
No pun intended.
And exactly. And this has been really interesting. And thank you to all the people that joined us. And we hope that you will lend your voice to this issue. And again, if you have any questions, Terry told you how to get in touch with everybody. There were some questions about folks that may miss the recording or part of it. And we hope to get this recording on our website, sfct.org, by tomorrow. May take a little longer than that, but I think we're shooting for tomorrow. So again, thank you everybody out there. Thanks for caring about night skies and dark skies in this issue. And thank you to all of our panelists for giving us your time, your expertise, and answering these questions.
Thank you.
At that, we'll say goodbye.
Say bonsoir, François Marie.